Hi everyone, welcome to Single Value. So today we're going to look at Coinbase. This is probably one of the most exciting IPOs for the year, so do not miss this one, and probably you want to read up as much as you want on this one because as much as there's a lot of hype behind this exchange, especially since it does crypto and people just love crypto at the moment, particularly how well Bitcoin has done. So you've got to love a company like Coinbase basically. But you know, it's not just hype itself. The results are actually so amazing that there's just really no words to describe it, and we'll go through those results right after we go through this. So this is their prospectus, and as you would expect with a prospectus, it comes with the fluffy kind of stuff of their mission is to create an open financial system for the world. But so basically they're an exchange anyway, and they facilitate transactions. And yeah, I imagine as long as they make it easy enough, users are happy, it helps the world go round in a sense. So more economic freedom for every person and business, that's the whole idea of crypto anyway. It's really this stuff that I'm more interested in. So monthly transacting users is 2.8 million, and that was at the very end of 2020 in December. And yeah, the verified users was 43 million users. So you can kind of see these are pretty nice numbers, pretty big numbers in the scheme of things. And then we look at their first quarter for 2020. So basically 3 months later from those statistics, their verified users have jumped to 56 million. So from 43 million, they've added another 13 million in the space of 3 months. So you can imagine that's pretty phenomenal, right? And then monthly transacting users went from 2.8 million to 6.1 million. So yeah, just looking at those numbers, you can't not be blown away by how quick they've just grown that user base and the transacting users by that much in 3 months' time. And also, assets on their platform amount up to $223 billion, and that's quite a lot of assets. Like when you're in hundreds of billions of dollars, that's really incredible, and it actually makes up about 11.3% of the crypto assets on the market. So yeah, like you can imagine, Coinbase has they're a big player in this industry. And just the amount of crypto they hold, the amount of verified users, the amount of transacting users, that's a lot of users. So I think they're just doing incredibly well on this. And the thing is, like, you look at their assets on their platform at the end of 2020, and it was $90 billion, and then now it's at $223 billion. So as you can imagine, as crypto assets kind of increase in value, and over time the trend has basically been assets generally increase in value, like the crypto assets. Like Bitcoin is basically on record highs. It has never been this high. So you can kind of imagine if Bitcoin continues to climb, that asset value on the platform actually continues to increase over time as well. And yeah, it's basically, it looks pretty straightforward that over time cryptocurrency assets will just continue to increase in value. More volume is going to be transacted, and they're just going to continue to generate a lot of exchange fees over that time, which is kind of what I want to just go to basically now. So revenue for 2020 was $1.1 billion, and that was up quite a lot from 2019 when it was at $482 million. So basically they more than doubled that in 2020, and that's for 12 months, right? I would just want you to be like thinking about these numbers and go, yeah, that was 12 months, and those are large numbers. And in their first quarter for 2020, their revenue was $1.8 billion. Yeah, that's right, you heard it right. 1.8 billion just for 3 months, and it was substantially more than what they did the whole of last year. So they did more in 3 months than they did in the whole of 12 months last year. And that's not even that. Like if they did 1.1 just in that first quarter, you would be blown away. But they did even more. They did $1.8 billion in the first 3 months, and in the whole of last year it was 1.1 billion. So yeah, you can kind of imagine that their net revenue was, yeah, they've just blown that number just out of the park. If you add the other revenue, it's 1.2 billion. And yeah, this company did really well by generating $322 million in net profit, which is amazing. But particularly when you consider that they made a 30 million loss in 2019, and it's yeah, basically they're expecting a net income of 730 to 800 million dollars on this first quarter in terms of net profit. So you can imagine that, hey, this is actually pretty phenomenal stuff, that this company is generating so much cash that I'm not even sure they know what to do with it. Like, have you ever seen these type of margins before? Like, it's not often you see companies with margins this incredible. Though at the same time, you got to go, how sustainable are these revenues? Because at the end of the day, like, sometimes crypto is extremely popular and a lot of people transact. And what happens when people don't want to buy crypto as much? Then they could end up getting less transaction fees and they'll make less money. And that's the thing. That's going to be a reality. I think it won't be very as linear as you imagine. But the fact that they've grown their revenues that much, you gotta just be really, really impressed. And yeah, back in the middle of March, the valuation was around 68 billion. That's kind of what everyone thought they would be listing at. But I think this will be revised, probably closer to the $100 billion mark, if I'm not mistaken, because this first quarter revenue that they've just recently released will really adjust what people are willing to pay for the shares on the IPO. But in the longer term, I do definitely see this company in the $200 to $300 billion mark, just on how incredible their recent results were, how incredible their margins are. So if you consider that, hey, if they make 730 to possibly $800 million, and we go, potentially these guys could generate $2 to even $3 billion in net profit this year, assuming things are relatively steady around these numbers. If they do drop, then it's possible that the valuation won't be as high, but if they can keep it some sort of consistency, they don't have to perform as high as these numbers, then yeah, like $200 to $300 billion for this kind of company would kind of, yeah, be merited, which would kind of seem insane. But I think it's, yeah, like for what they've generated, there is very, very few companies growing revenues this much. So yeah, like it's just like it's kind of beyond belief. I think the results were about 900% increase from the prior quarter. So yeah, if you're not impressed, I don't know what's going to impress you in this sense. And if we scroll right to the bottom here, they do include 100 million of 100 million is stock-based compensation. So technically, if they aren't doing that much stock-based compensation in the future, then technically their net profit is actually quite high. It was a lot higher because stock-based compensation is a non-cash expense. So technically their revenue, their net profit is actually much, much higher. So these guys are generating so much cash on their hand that the biggest question is, what do they do it with, and how can they continue to expand what they're doing? I guess, like, at the end of the day, they're trying to expand to every country around the world and allow people to buy like crypto on their platform everywhere. And once that happens, the biggest question is, yeah, like, I think basically they don't really have to do too many things that are different from their current situation to continue to grow at a very, very high rate. Because as it stands, a lot of people are getting into crypto, and a lot of people, yeah, like will end up transacting on this platform. I think this is one of the ones that a lot of people know and a lot of people trust. And yeah, I think they're just going to perform pretty well going forward. But I think if you can buy this company at probably 150 billion in valuation or less. I think it's worthy of buying into. You don't want to pay too much at high valuations. I think this will be revised possibly to that $100 billion valuation. And then when it opens, it usually opens quite highly, and it's 50 to 100% higher. So it probably opens at 150 to possibly 200 billion in valuation. But if I'm, if it ends up opening a lot less, then I think it's definitely worthy of buying into this kind of company. Particularly if you like crypto and you believe the future is pretty strong for crypto, because at the end of the day, Coinbase as an exchange is only as strong as the demand for crypto. Is if people don't want to buy crypto, then what's good is this exchange going to do? So that's one of the things about Coinbase, that they will heavily rely on everything going forward, like how well crypto does. And I think as time goes on, I feel like people trust crypto more. I think a lot of people still don't buy into crypto, but the minute, like most people buy into crypto, I think that's when you believe, say, the future of Coinbase is limited. But right now, a lot of people still aren't buying crypto, and there's a huge possibility in the future that companies will buy crypto, everyone else will buy crypto. Well, even this figure here, that out of the $223 billion in assets on their platform, 122 billion of those assets is actually institutional holders. So in that sense, the due diligence on a platform actually is probably quite high. And they wouldn't leave so much money on this platform if they didn't like how secure it was and what they did. So I think everything's looking fairly bright in the future for this platform. And I think you would probably want to see the second quarter to just reaffirm that, hey, can you actually continue to do probably 1.8 billion in revenue for every quarter, or can you do like at least 1.5? Even $1 billion a quarter would seem pretty amazing anyway, because remember last year was 1.1. So like you got to be impressed with a platform like this. The cash equivalence is $1 billion. So like they're definitely not short of cash in terms of how they're running. And in terms of verified users, the 2019 number was 32 million, and then they jumped to 43. So as time's gone on, like this platform has continued to grow in an extremely good way. I think it will continue to grow very, very well. And I think it's pretty straightforward. I like the straightforward companies, particularly if it's an exchange. It's pretty straightforward what these guys do. The biggest risk is, hey, this platform gets hacked in the future, and maybe they lose quite a lot of their currencies, which would be very damaging for the platform. So, but I imagine their security is quite good, but even really good companies get hacked as well. So there's risks around that. So firstly, they could get hacked. Secondly, crypto might not be as interesting for people going in the future, or maybe other platforms in terms of exchanges are more better, because I do hear Coinbase doesn't necessarily have the best support, like in terms of customer support. So like there's the rest of everything, of course. But in terms of what I'm seeing in terms of numbers, these numbers are pretty amazing. That I'd say, the valuation for this company will not be cheap. It's going to IPO, I think very, very soon. I think the 14th, if I'm not mistaken. So it will be quite interesting to see what they price this at. But I think if they price the company, I'll see if I can make a video on it by then. And then see what the anticipation is. I definitely think it's going to be much higher than the $68 billion that it's peaked at currently, at least when this article was written on the 17th of March. So definitely let me know what your thoughts are, or if you have any questions, just feel free to post below. Until then, good luck investing, everyone.